All right, and now it gives me great pleasure to bring Darryl Sparey, who is the co-founder of Hard Numbers, to the stage, and he is going to talk about NFTs, and not like you think he is. So with that, Darryl Sparey.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all for your time today. I'm ever so slightly nervous about this for a couple of reasons, some of which will become obvious as I go through this. But this is the first time in about 2.5 years that I've done public speaking. Every public speaking engagement I've done for the last 2 years has been on Zoom. So buckle up. Right. First off, I'd like to talk to you today about something that is more dear to me in the whole wide world, as treasured to me as my daughter's laughter, the AMEC Integrated Measurement Framework. Thank you. Yes. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Who the hell are you? Many of you here might be wondering. I'm Darryl Sparey, and I head up Hard Numbers. I had my own media measurement business many moons ago, which I sold to Precise, which became Kantar and is now Onclusive. And I spent many years in the measurement industry. While I was there, we took Precise's media measurement and analysis business from one client, which was Microsoft, and about 200K of revenue to about 150 clients and about 8 million of revenue each year. Richard and I will argue about exact market share sizes and things like that over a beer later. After I left Precise, I spent 2 years running the London office of an SEO business and 4 years on the UK board of Hotwire. I was AMEC's Young Professional of the Year. Clearly a very long time ago, but I've still got the trophy. And I'm also delighted to say that my business, Hard Numbers, has recently added to my personal AMEC trophy cabinet with a gold award at this year's AMEC Awards. Hard Numbers is a performance-driven marketing and communications business. We have around 20 full-time staff and a similar number of clients. We were set up in June 2020 to do two things. Firstly, help our clients sell more of their product or service. And secondly, to prove that we've done that with very best-in-class measurement for us to be able to provide that for our clients. According to data released this week from the wonderful Provoke News, Hard Numbers is the third fastest growing PR agency on the planet. Who knew? As we're only 2 years old, I'm sure a number of people in the audience will tell me that's not hard numbers, but the law of small numbers. But anyway, what am I going to talk about today? Well, that was a question I very often found myself asking myself while I was working on launching an NFT project called Pan-Dimensional Trading Company in late 2021 and 2022. Last year, I confidently submitted a speaker pitch for this event to Jonna entitled, Why NFT Stands for Never Forget Testing, How I Applied the AMEC Measurement Framework and a Growth Mindset to Marketing a New Product for a Client, NFTs. This was because my business, Hard Numbers, was working with an NFT project called Pan-Dimensional Trading Company, which launched in late last year and went on public sale in April of this year, crucially after I submitted my speaker presentation form to Jonna. In the cliched words of any half-decent football pundit, what you're going to get today is a game of two halves. The first half is a very honest appraisal of how we use the AMEC Integrated Measurement Framework to plan our communication strategy for this client and how we kept testing and learning throughout that. The second half of this presentation is about the value of not just testing and learning, but also data and market insight. More on that later. So, to briefly get some definitions out of the way, what is an NFT? I won't pick on anyone in the audience. NFT stands for non-fungible token. So that's easy enough. You're all clever people. You all probably got it from that. But if, like me, you didn't know very much about NFTs a few months ago, NFTs are digital assets which are part of the Ethereum blockchain. Ethereum is a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin or Dogecoin, but its blockchain supports these NFTs, which store extra additional information about these assets that make them work slightly differently from an ETH coin. The non-fungible part means that unlike an ETH coin, it's unique and it can't be fractionalized or broken down or replaced for another token. And it doesn't matter in the case of a Bitcoin or an ETH or something like that, which one you have, they're all the same. But with an NFT, they're unique. Think of NFTs as a one-of-a-kind trading card. And so that's why when I say NFT, lots of people very often think of this. This is Bored Ape Yacht Club. They're the most successful NFT project yet. The creators of which, Yuga Labs, have just raised a cool $450 million in investment, which is quite a lot of money, in a round that was led by Andreessen Horowitz, which valued the firm at $4 billion. NFT projects typically promote themselves via Twitter and a community platform called Discord. NFT projects typically launch the promotion of the project, drip feeding early followers of the project on Twitter and on Discord with information about the project ahead of the mint date, the date that the NFTs will go on sale on their website. Followers are encouraged to grind or to help promote the project on their own channels, on their own Twitter channels and things like that, so that they ultimately get placed on a whitelist. A whitelist is a racially biased terminology which I personally intensely dislike, but it's one that's used in the industry. We use pre-sale list or allow list when we talked about the whitelist. The reason whitelists are created is twofold. It guarantees a market for the NFTs before they go on sale, because if someone has been grinding for 3 weeks or 3 months even to get onto an allow list, they're highly likely to buy when the NFTs go on sale at the mint. And this list grants them lower gas fees. Gas fees is the toll charged by the Ethereum network when buying NFTs. Gas fees vary greatly, but can often be as much as the NFT you're buying. So then when the project mints, users buy the NFTs using the cryptocurrency Ethereum and can subsequently buy or sell their NFTs on the secondary market, typically OpenSea, although there are others. Is everyone with me so far? Good, good. All right, let's get this popping. So this is what we did. We started working with Pandimensionals right at the start of the project before they sent their first tweet. I knew nothing about NFTs. The amount I knew about NFTs could be committed to the back of a borrower's postcard in rather large handwriting. So I did what I always do when I'm confronted with something that I don't understand or I'm struggling with in every single situation of my life. I got out my trusty AMEC evaluation framework and I set about using it to define what we would do for the next 3 to 4 months. The objective was obvious. Sell 10,000 JPEGs of Cherry Aid-addicted aliens on the internet. To explain that ever so slightly more for you, the NFT project we were promoting is what's called a PFP project, or Picture for Profile project. We had 10,000 different computer-generated JPEG images of an alien being called the Fanakapans to sell. These are pan-dimensional beings who crash-landed on Earth many years ago, and their currency is now Cherry Aid, which they use to fuel their orgies. I recognize as I'm saying this out loud to a room full of very intelligent, thoughtful people that I'm suddenly becoming very aware of quite how ridiculous this whole enterprise sounds. But anyway, the inputs, what did we know? Well, first off, the global market for NFTs is actually pretty tiny. The typical buyer of an NFT is what's called a degen or a degenerate. That's a name they give themselves, by the way. They're typically between 25 and 45 years old. They typically live in the US, and they've made paper or digital gains by buying Ethereum at a low price previously, and they're looking to do something with that Ethereum to increase their gains further. They vastly skew male. Data from GWI says approximately 70% of NFT buyers globally are male, and they like to smoke weed. I kid you not. Actually, as just a quick aside, and this is completely unscripted, I went on a call, which was effectively a pitch for another NFT marketer called the NFT Sommelier to work with us on this project. And I got onto the call, and I started thinking, has the world gone mad, or is it me? He did this call in a baseball cap that said "WAG me," which stands for "We're all going to make it" on his head. And within 5 minutes of the call, started lighting up a massive spliff. And he smoked this spliff all the way through the call. Very odd. I did have a moment where I'm like, is it me, or is this world very, very odd? So basically, there's only 3 million people globally who've ever bought an NFT, which represents only about 0.04% of the entire global population. So it's a small universe that we're selling into. The other input we used was successful NFT projects that we tried to learn from and then understand what they did right. We looked at all the household names that I'm sure you'll all be very familiar with, such as XR Penguins, Slotties, Cyber Runners, and of course, Psychedelics Anonymous. From these, we gleaned the following things that which our approach should contain. Firstly, paid. Twitter, Facebook, Google, and most other reputable paid channels had banned NFT advertising. So initially, we weren't able to use paid as a form of promotion for the project, but we did get a little creative on how we used paid later on. Earned, this is where we thought our project would demonstrate a real advantage over others. As a leading tech PR and comms business, if there's one thing we know we can do, it's get media coverage. Most other projects outside of Bored Ape Yacht Club aren't securing very much earned media coverage at all. Shared. This is what we knew would be the engine room of our communications with our prospective customer base. If you look, as I did, at every single major NFT project online using a comparison site like NFTscoring.com, you'll see that they all use Twitter and Discord, and that those are the primary ways that they build and communicate with their audience of future buyers and owners post-mint. Again, there was some data that I wish I'd had at this point in the project that would have informed my thinking further about whether this was going to be successful or not. And then finally, owned. The website for the project, which we ultimately mint the NFTs on. We use this to drive people back to our Twitter and Discord channels because we knew that's the key place we were going to engage with them, and to merchandise media coverage that we secured about the project. Again, we learned some things along the way about that too. Looking into each one of those channels in a little bit more detail, here's paid. So Twitter banned NFT advertising. But through testing, we learned that it was a pretty simple, automated ban which algorithmically looked for words like NFT, mint, ETH, etc., etc. So once the Pandimensionals account had been banned from advertising, we set up a separate account. Much like the way in The Wire, drug dealers have burner phones, we had this burner Twitter account called Pete the Pandimensional, or Pete the Alien. Pete the Alien was a Fanakapan tweeting in the voice of an alien trapped on Earth from another planet. We then sponsored Pete's posts and built an audience of over 300 followers for Pete, engaging directly with the followers we picked up and then driving them back to the Pandimensionals channels with our pinned tweet and follow-up tweets that we sent. The other bit that worked really well is we then used Pete's profile to DM degens that we thought were going to be interested in the project. We used BuzzSumo, although we could have used some of the other excellent tools here today, like TalkWalker, to do some research here on the Twitter profile of anyone who'd bought a successful NFT project previously. So some of the ones that I talked about earlier, but also Bored Ape, Lazy Lion, Azuki, etc., and talked about it in their Twitter bio. We then perfected the text, which you can see here, based on what got the best response rate from the people that we DM'd using Pete's Twitter account. And you can see here that we got a great response from DJ Benny Boom, who is an American DJ who's been on tour with some really big acts like Public Enemy and stuff like that, who's previously bought NFTs and also has his own NFT project as well. We use Phantom Buster basically to automatically DM that list of people that we'd curated based on the research we'd done on BuzzSumo. And we engaged directly with the people that we picked up that way, using their name, the name of the projects they bought, and highlighted things about our own project that we thought would be of relevance to them. There's probably, I'm going to need a drink of water before I say this. There's probably no PR agency that is going to stand up in front of you today and say, we sent out a press release and we got absolutely no coverage. But Hard Numbers is unlike any other PR agency out there, so I'm going to do just that. We drafted and sent out a launch release for the project, and we distributed it on a newswire as well and paid for it out of our own pockets to do that, and then pitched it in with tailored pitches to earned media outlets that we knew had an interest in cryptocurrency and NFTs, and we got zero coverage. The only responses we had were from pay-to-play cryptocurrency sites of varying quality, and by varying, I mean crap. So we had to get creative. We used newsjacking to drive coverage for the project, and anytime something happened that was relevant in the NFT space, such as the launch of Twitter's Blue service, Yuga Labs' funding round, or major movements in the price of Ethereum, we pitched the project founder, PJ Cooper, for comment. And that got us coverage in Wired, The Sun, Currency.com, and lots of other outlets as well. We tweeted a lot. And by a lot, I mean a lot. I probably wrote dissertations worth of Twitter content, which is really, really embarrassing, really, when you say it out loud. We tried a lot of different things. One thing we noticed about the initial tweets we sent, most of the NFT projects used a really simple growth hacking mechanism where they basically tweet something and say something like RT, tag 3 friends to win. We tried loads of different things, loads of different engagement hacks and responses and things like that. But weirdly, every time we sent a tweet out like that, every time people responded by liking, RTing, and tagging 3 of their friends or people they thought would be interested in it. The market was so conditioned to a particular mechanic that when someone tried to do something different, they responded in exactly the same way as they would to other similar approaches. So we ended up doing a lot of very, very similar things to other growth hacking tweets that other projects were sending to drive the audience. And drive the audience we did. We secured over 4,000 Twitter followers in around 4 months, completely organically, which is no mean feat for anyone that's ever done that kind of thing before. We also provided community management and moderator training for their Discord channel and managed to get the numbers for that up to over 2,600 people on that community at time of mint. Community of Service is a product that we developed and launched at Hard Numbers, and I believe the best brands and companies will be using community to build an audience and differentiate themselves over the next few years. But that's another presentation perhaps for next year, Jonna. As I said earlier, we use the website here to show off the earned media coverage that we were securing about the project. This is something that we took from startups that we work with who have an as seen in Wired, et cetera, on their websites to add credibility for investors and potential customers. Coverage is a form of social proof, and for a project where you have to sell 10,000 of anything in a 4 to 5 month window, you need all the social proof you can get. And then finally, we also did some pretty daft stuff, like paying Willy Wonka actor Deep Roy to pretend he'd been captured by the Fanakapans and post a video as if he'd been kidnapped by them. Now, I don't want to use this platform that I've got today to besmirch the acting talents of Deep Roy, and I'm sure he had a number of engagements on the day, but boy, did he phone this performance in. Anyway, so what were the outtakes of all this that we should be driving to? Pretty simple. I want to buy JPEGs of those cherry-addicted aliens on the internet. What were the outcomes, I hear you ask? Well, so you remember when I said right up front this is a presentation of two halves. As things stand right now, the project has sold 294 of those JPEGs. The number's slightly higher maybe than it is on the screen right now. But as you're all a room full of very intelligent, very smart people, you'll know that 294 doesn't equal 420, which was the mint target that was shown on screen there. And you'll probably remember that the original target was to sell 10,000 of these things. So that's 10,000 is definitely not equal to 420. So what went wrong? I learned a valuable lesson in the importance of really understanding market dynamics before you undertake any project. Firstly, competition. When I researched the project, I looked at high-profile successes in the space. For every high-profile success, there were literally hundreds of projects like Pandimensionals which never minted out, which never sold all their NFTs. I didn't research that market well enough to know that, and I also didn't research the market well enough to know in the week that we planned to launch, there were over 135 other NFT projects globally that all launched on the Ethereum network. Which is more, when we moved the mint date back to try and find less competition, we moved it to the week that Yuga Labs launched their Other Side project, which dominated NFT Twitter for days and weeks to follow. Secondly, market liquidity. I knew that only 3 million people globally had bought an NFT previously, but I looked at all the data. I looked at interest in the term NFT on Google Trends and saw that the line was only going up like that. I looked at volumes of sales on secondary marketplaces like OpenSea, and I saw that the line was only going like that. I assumed that what was happening was more and more people were hearing about NFTs, more and more people were coming into the market to buy them, and I was entirely wrong. What was happening was that simply people who already owned NFTs were buying and trading other NFTs. And one of the reasons for that, and I don't talk about it here, but is the enormous friction that exists in trying to sign up and buy an NFT right now. You have to own Ethereum or some other cryptocurrency that you then convert into Ethereum. You have to have a MetaMask or other wallet that you store that Ethereum on, and then you have to connect that to the website of the project you're going to mint the NFT from. There is friction at every single point of that journey, and you've really, really got to want to buy an NFT to go through that process to actually do it. Then, thirdly, I didn't understand the importance of whales and alpha groups to the success of projects. Any project which is successful in the NFT space has the support of whales. I'm not talking about the country and the homeland of my co-founder, Paul Stollery, but rather people who own a lot of Ethereum that they bought a long time ago. So buying NFTs at 0.05 ETH is pretty cheap to them. Similarly, and this is one of a number of areas where the NFT market gets a little bit shady, the support of alpha groups, which are usually private communities of whales and other people who've bought successfully in other projects who get behind new projects to help buy and promote those NFTs. I now know that NFT projects that do well all benefit from the support of these cohorts substantially. Finally, the roller coaster ride that is the price of Ethereum and the huge volatility that we've seen in markets and value of cryptocurrencies that use these products. In the time that I worked on this project, Ethereum was plus or minus 60% in value throughout that 4-month period. So that's kind of like trying to build your house on sand in terms of planning for success of something. So Ironically enough, there's a saying in the crypto and NFT space, DYOR, or do your own research. It's normally used as a kind of disclaimer when people offer advice to buy a particular coin or NFT to say the potential buyers should do the research for the market on themselves. Unquestionably, I failed to do the right research in the right areas in this space, and I didn't achieve the ambitions that we set out to on the project. But it's not all bad news. So, outcomes. The project signed up over 1,000 people for its pre-sale allow list, of which 10% went on and actually bought NFTs from the project. Given digital conversion rates are usually about 2%, that's a pretty solid conversion rate, and I'm very happy with that. The project has generated over £23,000 of revenue that can now be put to adding more utility and offering more to the holders of the NFTs that bought them. And finally, it generated a 2.8 times ROI on the initial investment made by the founders in the project, which isn't a bad return on investment either. So, what have I learned from my experiences in the NFT space to save you all time? Number one, do your own research. Seriously, before you start out investing time and effort in anything, and it doesn't have to be the NFT space, it can be any communications or marketing project you work on, really look into the numbers and really understand the size and the scale and the drivers of the audience that you're communicating with. Number two, test assumptions before you start. I was guilty of looking at the best case scenario for the project. You know, what happens? What revenue will we generate if we sell all 10,000 NFTs? What I didn't focus on was the more important question, what happens if we don't sell any, and what are we going to do then? And that is something I would have spent more time on. Thirdly, test, fail, and learn quickly. Be open to trying new channels, new tools, and new approaches. I learned a ton of stuff about Discord, about community management, about automation tools like Phantom Buster. We subscribe to new tools like BuzzSumo and lots more. Learn what works and then double down the investment, the time and effort you're putting in that space. And finally, of course, use the AMEC Integrated Measurement Framework, not just to plan your communication strategy, but use it as a live document to enter new activity streams as you add them, and then respond to the results you're seeing, in a live fashion. And if we all do this, in the words of the weed-smoking NFT sommelier that I spoke to, we're all going to make it. If you want to read more about my dalliance in the NFT industry, I blogged about this all on the Hard Numbers website every other week or so since the start of 2022. If you go to bit.ly/NFTs for AMEC, you'll be able to access my latest blog post, which is a much longer explanation of a lot of the stuff that I talked about today. Thank you very much. If you'd like to tweet something nice, I'm at Darryl Sparey, and my business is at Hard Numbers. If you want to tweet something not very nice, my handle is at Boris Johnson. Thank you all very much for your time. Do I go? Go. Am I going? Oh, right. There are questions, are there?
Have a seat. I don't know if there's questions, but I feel like a therapy session is in need. So we'll go ahead and just do this here in public. Relax. No, thank you so much. I think that was entertaining. It's interesting. It gives us all a new perspective, and tying everything new and digital and Web 3.0 and everything that will be a massive migraine for everyone in this room, no matter where you are. It really gives everybody kind of that launching off point and being able to measure it effectively. So thank you so much for bringing those elements together so well. Do we have questions from the audience? We have time for 1 or 2 questions for Darryl. If not, I have about 20. Yes, the other Darryl. For all of you Bob Newhart fans from the US, you're welcome.
Darryl, that was amazing. I'm going to go and buy some Ethereum and.
Thank you, man.
Maybe this is slightly sort of off topic, but I was curious as to know, at the end when you came up with the ROI figures and stuff like that, did that factor in your fees? And how were you remunerated for the project? Am I allowed to ask that question?
Yeah. And I'll be really open and honest about it, which is kind of one of the reasons why I made that point about don't focus on the best case scenario, think about the worst case scenario, right? Because yes, we had a performance-related element to the remuneration if we sold over a certain amount of NFTs, and we were also guaranteed a number of NFTs, which could have had value as well. So yeah, we worked on it wasn't an entirely performance basis, but there was a performance element to our remuneration. So yeah, I was 100% guilty of looking at the big headline number and not paying enough attention to the potential downside number. So.
Great question. Do we have another question for Darryl? Yes. Wait for a mic, please. Perfect.
Darryl, knowing what you know now, would you do all of this again?
Do you know what? Yeah, someone asked me that question, and I'm a belligerent so-and-so. So yeah, 100%. I mean, the thing that I said at the end, I learned so much about so many different things, like about NFTs, about cryptocurrency wallets, about the cryptocurrency industry, about Web3, about the metaverse, about all that stuff. And then I learned loads about new communications tools, things like that. Phantom Buster was one of the most amazing things I've ever come across in my life, and I'm going to be using that for as long as I can continue to, because it's absolutely brilliant. So there's loads, 100%, and also like the opportunity to come and talk about this experience on the stage like this. You know, I was blogging about the experience every other week. I got mentioned on podcasts and things like that as that NFT marketing guy and stuff. I've been invited to talk at other events, not nearly as prestigious as this event. So yeah, I would 100% do it again, because there's no such thing as failure, right? Like, nothing's either good or bad, thinking makes it so. That's something I wrote in a poem for my little boy. And I want him to have that growth mindset in his life, that whatever there's no such thing as failure. It's just a learning experience. And did you learn? Did you learn from what happened? Yeah, then great, crack on and do something else.
And he's a poet. So I think with that, no, he has his priorities straight. It's, 2 children, IEF, Young Professional Award. So, Darryl's good. Darryl's got all of his priorities. Thank you so much, Darryl. That was an excellent presentation. And thank you for not being afraid to share your findings, and hopefully that inspires other people to go out there, because it's just a matter of time before everyone will be having to take Ethereum as payment for whatever they have to understand, all of their press releases and those transparencies on the blockchain. I mean, that is coming. It's coming for all of us. So thank you for being brave and for trailblazing that for all of us, and then sharing your knowledge. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.